welcome y'all to Backwoods Obscura, a podcast dedicated to the lore, legends, and myths surrounding the creatures that may lurk in your backyard. My name's Hewitt.
I'm Chris.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. With the whole political climate, it feels like every day there's something happening.
That's part of
that's part of the idea. But I did some good news. I got to do some it wasn't like actual political activism, but it's I got to talk with some people that do phone banking here, and they do organized efforts for voting rights and protests and things like that. And and they had a gathering in Ruston yesterday, and we went over there and talked with them, and it was really cool. It's really wild. So people, make the joke that boomers and shit are
technology challenged.
Well, technology challenged, but also much more conservative. A lot of the people that came to this were older folks, especially rural older folks, which I wasn't expecting necessarily. So, it was really wild to see so many people, especially rural people coming out. People from, Farmerville, people that were, actually work with farms and everything, and saying how pissed they were.
Well, the big thing that a lot of people have to remember is in our lifetime since 1968, the South has voted Republican, but beforehand it voted almost 100% Democrat.
Yeah.
Now, the reason for that is a lot of the folks that are in the Republican Party now in the South, the older ones, they used to be Democrats.
Yeah.
But when civil rights kicked in, they switched to Nixon when he started talking about the silent majority and how the Democrats were leaving these conservative individuals.
My grandmother, she was lifelong registered Democrat. She voted for Bush and against Obama, but she had never changed her stuff. So despite, being a registered Democrat, she would always get Republican pamphlets.
Well, the big thing is that prior to the civil rights movement, you really didn't have a liberal versus conservative party. You had liberal versus conservative factions in both. The main difference was how do you deal with state versus federal power? And Republicans actually did lean more towards federal regulation during the Cold War.
Well, if you think about Theodore Roosevelt.
He was a progressive. That.
Yeah, he ran as a Republican. And a lot of the stuff he did would have been antithetical to what Republicans do now. Of course, Panama Canal, stuff like that.
The imperialism of the progressive era, that's one thing. But, we had three progressive presidents. You had Roosevelt, Taft, and Wilson. But two Republicans and a Democrat. So there were progressives in both parties. So what I'm trying to say is, this whole thing of, how the Democrats and Republicans are kind of squared off now and have been really since about 2000 or really since Bill
started Clinton, in the Reagan era, really.
Well, a little bit, but took a lot of root when Clinton was put up for impeachment. But the big thing here is that there used to be factions within each group, and that actually allowed for more bipartisan efforts to take place. To try to transition from this, not to say it's not important, because again, this is the number of times, because we had a guest just not too long ago that brought up that some of our podcasts are more of, hey, Hewitt and Chris talk for a half hour, and then here's 15 minutes of a spooky boy. But
we're going to be speaking on a little bit of politics here anyway, because have you ever heard of the Caddo Parish Penal Farm, also known as the P Farm?
I've heard of the P Farm, but that refers to the Richwood Correctional Facility in Ouachita Parish.
Yeah, no, this is a different penal farm.
But there's the number of P farms across everywhere.
Yeah. P farm is just shorthand for penal farm.
Well, also the one at Richwood specifically grew peas.
Oh yeah, this one apparently did too, but
because that's how the prisoners fed themselves was.
Yeah. So
back in the day before humane treatment was a thing, prisoners had to grow their own food, and if they didn't succeed, they went.
Well, we're getting a bit ahead because you're actually explaining something that could have been in this jail. But Caddo Parish Penal Farm is an abandoned jail outside of Shreveport, Louisiana. It is located in the woods near Water Oasis Water Park. You've probably driven by it going out. Like, if you're going to, like, Dallas.
It's over near, is that what used to be Splashtown?
Yeah, it used to be, yeah. Like, it's one of those places that changes names. Well, like, when I looked at some of the stuff, they called it that, Splash, what was it?
It was Splashtown, then it was Splashtown USA when I was a kid.
And then it was called not Splash Mountain, that's Disney. But it had another name. But when I looked it up on Google Maps, this was the name it had. It's hard to get to unless you know where to go. And another thing is, it is on private property owned by General Electric. The land that it's on is shared by Prolec GE, which is a manufacturing for transformer parts, usually just large-scale electronics is manufactured.
Well, I mean, I've seen how large a transformer is, so I'm assuming they when Optimus needs a replacement part, it's not small.
Yeah, this building is nestled in the woods, and you would have to know where to go to get to it. But having said that, it's not a destination that we are going to probably be able to get to because it's on private property.
I'm not. Okay, so you've mentioned several times now it's on private property, but let me add to it your phrase of it's out of the way, which means if we got caught there, it's not, oh, we just so happened upon this.
Yeah. And
also, I'm 40, you're almost 40. They'd stare at us like, the fuck are y'all doing? Like, if we were kids, like, if like this is early 20s, teenage years again, they might be like,
nah, we know what you're doing.
You're out here to smoke the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, out here smoking the devil's lettuce. Getting high and not praising Jesus. But it's not only like, okay, when you look at the Google Maps, it's like a huge forested area. It actually labels where the P farm is on Google Maps.
Uh-huh.
Because you can see it from space, obviously. Or you can see the general area from space. But just a little bit over is where the GE manufacturing building is. So it's fairly close to that, and it's also, it's heavily patrolled. But this doesn't deter ghost hunters and urban explorers from sneaking into the complex to explore the halls in hopes of capturing a ghost. I went to YouTube, and there were, like, majority of the videos are people just urbexing there. And, like, what's crazy is, like, apparently if you live in the area, if you live in Caddo Parish, or if you live anywhere in or around Shreveport, you actually probably know how to get there without even hitting the road. Because there was some guy that was on, like, an abandoned railroad track and then went through a forest trail that was set up by other people with beer bottles to get to this one spot. So I'm assuming that, like, if you're familiar with the area, or if you know people in the area, you can get to this area pretty easily.
Well, I mean, how many abandoned buildings do we know of that people still, like, when we were younger, folks urban X them? Yeah. And then
it was like half of downtown in Monroe was just urban.
Well, I mean, before they tore it down, Howard Griffin's building, like the number of people that went through there, some of the other places that you could just get into. But I mean, a lot of them now have been renovated, and at least the bottom halves are being used for stuff.
Now, the penal farm was built in 1905 for minimal security offenders. And these minimal security offenders would work the crops that would not only feed the inmates, but help pay for upkeep for the jail. As you were saying, similar penal farms around here did similar things. The farm also housed a women's prison, which is now mostly torn down, and it also had a place for more violent offenders, of course. Originally, the land was owned by a man named Cesar Carpentier Antoine, or C.C. Antoine, a retired Union officer and Louisiana politician, who during the Civil War, he served at the 7th Louisiana Regiment Infantry and the 10th U.S. Colored Heavy Artillery Regiment as captain. After the war, he served as state senator for Caddo Parish until 1972, where he became the lieutenant governor of Louisiana, only the third African American to do so at the time. So he served as lieutenant governor during the Reconstruction era. So after like his tenure and after after Reconstruction got completely fucked over.
Way to go, 1877.
Yeah. So he retired. He bought the land where it's at and ended up setting up a grocer in Shreveport. And it's not really, the details are kind of fuzzy on whether he lived on the land or not during the time, but we do know that Shreveport, the city of Shreveport, bought the land from him to do this since they were expanding their law enforcement at the time. And this is the time when Sheriff Samuel J. Ward was expanding, and of course when you expand and have more cops on the beat, you get more people. Like, whether, you could have like ethical...
You catch more criminals when you have more police on the force.
Yeah.
That's kind of a simple fact. The more cops you have, the more crime they're going to find.
Yeah. And there is an argument on whether or not there is, quote, more crime, or if they're just finding more frivolous offenses. But
well, that's why I phrased it the way I did, because more cops means there's more crime found.
But yeah, it's unsure if Antoine actually stayed on the property during this time. He died in like I believe he died in like 1910, 1920. He was like 85 when he passed away. But yeah, just like a lot of the prisons at the time and penitentiaries of the era, the Peat Farm did not have a stellar reputation. As you said, it did the age-old practice of, oh, you don't want to work the farm? You're not going to eat tonight, sort of deal. When it came to their inmates, abuse from prison staff was rampant, with guards assaulting female inmates and sometimes killing inmates because of excessive force. On the property, there is a paupers cemetery with both marked and unmarked graves of inmates who died while incarcerated, some of which under mysterious circumstances, quote unquote.
We've seen Shawshank Redemption. We know how this shit goes.
Yeah. There is actually, like, I say it's a legend because I saw a few people say it, like different videos and different like sources mention this, but they didn't really corroborate it. Like, there's a legend that the bodies far exceed the paupers field, and there's apparently bodies strewn all over the property, like buried all over the property. Because,
that tracks for a prison of that time period.
Yeah. So what is essentially a mass grave is one of the reasons why it has not been rebuilt and renovated or developed, because they don't want people coming in there and being like, oh, we're gonna
dug me a that's a bunch of bodies for
that's
that foundation.
That's some bones.
That's a mass grave.
I found a lot of bones in here. They're just all kind of twirled up together. Of course, that's unsubstantiated. That's one of those things that, is passed around as like ghost stories potentially. But considering like human rights abuses were pretty common in jails at the time, it does make sense, like, that they would have that. Now, I could not find specific reasons, but probably economic reasons. But the farm did shut down in 1950, and since then it's been abandoned, just retaken by nature. The property was originally owned by the city of Shreveport, and then it was bought out by GE, and ever since then, they just kind of like let nature reclaim it. I mean,
if you have a factory and your people are parking there, you don't want to be like, hey, you see that building on the edge of the parking lot?
Yeah.
That was a prison. You probably parked on somebody's grave. You don't want to tell somebody that. This factory's haunted.
Yeah. And the only sort of, like, from the sound of things, the only sort of acknowledgement you really get about this is the fact that it is, like, that there are patrols and there are posted signs telling you, do not go on the property. So, there is that. Now, the original section stands in a fairly clear area, but the women's ward, which again is now partially collapsed, is like way out into the forest. And you see pictures of this place, and it's like covered in kudzu and vines, and like you could very easily like miss the place if you're walking through it. From the pictures I saw, there was like a good bit of pictures online showing it, and when you look at it, you're like, oh, I've seen buildings like this before. You know, you've been to places where people have just tagged the fuck out of like an abandoned building. Yeah. Are just strewn about everything. You go down the cells and there's still like objects there from when it was a prison. Apparently there's still like hanging chains and everything from, you know, when they would lead people down the hallways and everything like that. But as you might have guessed, it looks like an abandoned building with a bunch of shit just knocked down, cave-ins, just graffiti everywhere. With all that in mind, I think, you know, we've always been to places like this. Now, what makes it haunted? Is there like a presence here that haunts it? Well, like from what people say about it, the way people explain the hauntings, it's not so much a singular person or singular entity. There is no like, you know, usually when you have haunted places, there's like, there's this ghost and there's that guy and, you know, the white lady, she killed herself after her bride didn't, or her
groom didn't show up, and she cast herself from the balcony.
Yeah, there's nothing like that. The biggest thing that people feel when they go there is just an uneasy feeling, like you're walking into this spot and you're immediately not welcome.
Well, let's be honest, even remove any type of supernatural stuff. Prisons are not built for you to feel welcome in them. I mean, like you walk into any prison, like you can go to Alcatraz, which has been, you know, made into nothing but a tourist attraction. The architecture is meant to depress you and upset you because everything about prison is meant to break you down.
Yeah.
Like, or quote unquote, let's take this from someone else's point of view, to make you repent for your wrongdoing.
No. As penitentiary, as the name implies.
So, I mean, it's like, even look at Eastern State Penitentiary that's also now a big tourist attraction.
Yeah.
I mean,
it looks imposing.
Well, no, just
like inside and out.
Well, you know what the old cells, the first cells built.
Yeah, they just had like the little light,
the pinhole window, because it was supposed to be the eye of God judging you, and you only got to go out in like an 8x8.
Yeah, like
square,
and it was just like steel doors, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was literally like a. Honestly, you could probably make a pretty decent like wine cellar or cask storage from the old rooms at that place.
I mean, that's a nice light way to put it.
Well, I'm just saying it's a vaulted ceiling. It's completely enclosed with the exception of you have a steel door to the hallway and a steel door to your 8x8 yard, because you didn't even get to go out in the yard with other criminals. You literally got told to go out and walk around in a circle. They would like put bags and stuff and like sensory deprive them. Yeah. Moving them. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like the whole thing, like if we just remove the supernatural element, like nothing about a prison is built to be inviting. Like the best you can get is that you get cold utilitarian for more modern prisons to straight up. It's meant to make me uncomfortable. Like it's meant like, again, like Eastern State, it's supposed to make you feel small. Yeah. It's supposed to make you, it's supposed to give that vibe to you. Yeah.
I suspect a part of it too is that there is that feeling of you going, like if you've ever urban explored or gone into places you're not technically supposed to go, there is that like anxiety in the back of your mind. Like some people might not feel that, but I know I did when I go into a place I'm not technically supposed to go through. And there is like that, you know.
Well, it's the same concept now with the back rooms. We've all ended up in a spot.
Yeah.
That we're not supposed, there's a place that others itself. And like, let's also be honest, like most of prison is a linear space because it is like a hallway from your cell to the mess. Yeah. A hallway from the mess to recreation. And then a hallway from recreation back to your cell.
And again, that's by design. They want it to... It's not supposed to be an inviting space. It's just... At best, it's supposed to just hold a bunch of humans. But the things that you also have are you hear sobbing, the sound of chains, and shuffling and clacking of shoes throughout the empty halls. You also see shadow figures and strange apparitions around the buildings. Of course, like some of this, again, I've already stated before, some of this could just be like, paranoia, anxiety, things that are happening because of outside factors. But there are, especially like because people tend to go here at night to avoid cops. People could just have their mind playing tricks on them. But
I mean, I'll be honest. What I'd be more afraid of? Bobcats and raccoons.
Or just another person.
No. The only reason I would say no to another person is I feel like, well, no, you might be right. Because we've mentioned previously, some people sleep in a graveyard. But...
And it's not to say that, someone that's homeless is dangerous, but I mean, if you're walking in and you run into some stranger you don't know, that could be a potentially dangerous situation.
That's the whole basis of the bear versus man in the woods thing.
Yeah. And you're talking about a place where people go to fuck around. Like, be it like paint or explore or just decide to destroy shit. I mean... Yeah, so I can understand that sort of thing. You're not really scared of the ghost, but you're more scared of people coming here and are animals in there. But yeah, I am going to reiterate this again. Backwoods Obscura does not condone or does not encourage anybody to go seek this place out. On the record.
On the record, Team Bonus Actions, after consulting with a internet legal professional, would like you to know that we do not encourage you to go out to anywhere and trespass, damage property, investigate ghosts without permission. Mostly so that we can cover our own ass.
Now, this isn't too much. This is about all I had. I was originally going to, put it together with a bunch of other Shreveport stuff, but I kind of wanted to just do this one because I wanted to do something quick and easy and fun. And I enjoy stuff like this, even if it's not necessarily haunted. It's still a cool spot. It's one of those places where it's urbex and the paranormal cross paths but yeah, that's the P Farm, the Shreveport P Farm. The sources were CC Anton, Wikipedia, Haunted Nation P Farm, Caddo Parish Penal Farm, Shreveport, Louisiana, K945, the most haunted places in Shreveport in plain sight, all about hauntings, the P Farm, Louisiana most haunted places, only in Louisiana, a tour of the most haunted prison, not for the faint of heart. This is where I got some pictures from. I didn't really show pictures. I just want to have an idea.
I mean, it would be really hard to show the viewers pictures as this is a audio format.
107 Jams, history behind haunted hidden prison deep in the forest.
Jams? Jams gave you some of these news?
Yeah, Jams. Jam.
Sweet baby. She came and gave you some, she's like, Father.
In films. Women's prison, Shreveport P Farm pictures, and Louisiana Haunted Houses, the P Farm, which gave the location, and I was able to look it up. I know this isn't a big one, but I was like, hey, let's do this.
This was fun, and also, I had not heard of this place.
Yeah. There's a lot of, haunted places in Shreveport, but there's, such little information.
Well, I mean, let's be fair, it's Shreveport. There is no culture. There is nothing good about that city, except for that I could technically go to Costco and Whole Foods. And Whole Foods is sus now.
Yeah, Whole Foods is kind of sus. But anyway, we are Backwoods Obscura. We release every Tuesday. And we are also Team Bonus Action.
Team Bonus Action is a group of nerdy friends who like to stream video games, board games, mostly online D&D and other tabletops. We are not officially partnered with anybody right now because 2025 has been
It's been a year.
It's been a year so far, and several members of the crew are having to focus on life stuff instead of crew stuff. So we're not officially partnered with anybody, and we're probably not going to be officially partnered with anybody till Extra Life again. But if you can donate to the Trevor Project, the NCLU, or St. Jude, we would greatly appreciate it. Fight for civil rights, fight for kids to have a place to stay, and kick the hell out of childhood cancer.
Yeah. And with that, I hope you have a good day or night or whatever time it is over there.
Hey, don't go to the P Farm.
Don't go to the P Farm.